everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Mara, for the introduction. And I'm excited to get to study Parshat Vayetzei and dreams with all of you. Uh, Although people may not talk about it so much today, dreams are a really important piece of our ancestral tradition. And one place you can really see this is in Genesis, where many revelations, conversations between God and human beings, and important insights happen in dreams. So even before there's Torah in the Torah, even before the Torah is given, people receive wisdom through the process of dreaming, sometimes waking dreaming and often sleeping dreaming. And this particular parsha, right, has one of those very exciting dreams, the Parashat Vayetzei. So I want to look at that piece of the parsha and talk about the dream in the parsha as a dream. We often just talk about it as a text, but I want to talk about it as a dream. And then think a little bit about how does this legacy play out in Jewish tradition? How do we continue to engage with dreams as different generations of Jews keep sleeping and keep dreaming? How do we How do we uh, interpret and understand and make meaningful those nighttime experiences? So I'll just say that dreams have been a big part of my life. From the time I was a small child, I've had really powerful dreams, beautiful ones, scary ones. They've often informed me. They've often given me important information about my life. I went to rabbinical school because of a dream. I had this amazing dream where I met God at a bar, and God was a giant pregnant woman, and it was a phenomenal experience. So I had this, I had this encounter, and I woke up and I thought, what should I do with this? And I decided to get an application to rabbinical school. I probably would have gone eventually anyway, but it really was the dream that pushed me over. So, just so you know, this is a piece of my life that's very important to me personally, and I've been working with other people's dreams and with Jewish sources about dreaming for about a decade now, and it's something that matters to me a lot. And one of my very favorite dreams is the dream that we're about to look at. So I'm going to share my screen, and I know Mara's going to drop you a file in the chat if you would like to look along on your own PDF. I want to share a few things. So before I get to Vayetzei, before I get to Jacob's dream, I just want to quote a few things that I've written in my book Under Torah, which is a book about dreaming from a Kabbalistic point of view. And I want to explain the word under Torah, which is the title of the book, and which I think is really important also for understanding this parsha. So I wrote in the book, returning to the dream means returning to image, to the indeterminate, to the nonlinear, and to voices that have been suppressed or marginalized. If canonical revelation in Jewish tradition, which comes from above to below, is called Torah, we might call the dream world the under Torah, a deep well of truth that lies hidden and bubbles up from beneath, shifting our notions of divinity and prophecy. Part of why I wrote this is that Jewish tradition has a lot of ambivalence about dreams. We'll see some sources, like the one we're about to look at, where a dream is a very important vehicle for communication between humans and spirit. But in the book of Deuteronomy, there's also suspicion expressed about dreams and dreamers, and concern about what people might claim that they dreamed that might be that might go against the Torah or might be some way problematic. And so there's a kind of tension about dreaming that keeps arising in Jewish tradition. But really early in Genesis, we have a much less ambivalent relationship with dreams, where the dreams that are told or described in the book of Genesis are always revelatory. Right? They always have something important to say, whether it's to a character like Jacob or Abraham, or whether it's to a character who's not from the Israelite tradition like Avimelech. Right? Their dreams always have an element of truth and revelation to them. So this is the famous image from this dream in Vayetzei. And in a moment, we're going to look at the whole text, but the image of the ladder is the image that I really want to talk about with you and consider with you. Right, that Jacob dreams, he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, and behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. This is the whole text. This is the text about the dreaming, and I'm going to note a couple of things about it. I'm going to ask for some comments from you, and people should feel free to say things in the chat, and then I'm going to say a little bit about how this text might relate to ancient dream practice. So we're in the part of this story where Jacob has left his family in a rush, right, to get away from his brother Esau, and because his parents have sent him off to his mother's relatives. And he's by himself in the wilderness, right? And he has a significant dream. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. He came upon a certain place and stopped there for the night, for the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of that place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. He had a dream. Vayechalom is the Hebrew word. The word chalam is the word to dream. It also comes from a word that means to be healthy. Vayechalom v'hinei sulam mutzab arza, v'rosho magia hashemayma. He had a dream. A ladder was set on the ground, and its top reached to the sky, and messengers of God were going up and down on it. And standing beside him was Hashem, was the divine, who said, right, I am the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. The ground on which you are lying I will give to you and to your seed. Your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you and your descendants. Remember, I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. So this is the dream. And in a moment, we'll look at the reaction to the dream, but this is the dream. And the dream really has two components. It has an image and it has dialogue. And I want to start with the image, because often our dreams present us with mysterious images that can mean many different things. Right? We don't necessarily know what the image means. And in fact, in this dream, we're never told exactly what this image means. Right? Jacob sees this ladder. It's or perhaps staircase. We don't know exactly what sulam is. And it is stretched between heaven and earth. And he sees these angels that are going up and down on it. And this seems to be a dream of transition. Right? He's seeing the angels on a journey. They're moving between heaven and earth. It seems to be a dream about the contact between sky and earth, between God and human beings. Right? And there is a midrashic tradition about this dream that Jacob is seeing the changing of the guard because he's about to leave his land and enter another one. And so the angels are changing, right? They're the ones that have accompanied him up until this point are shifting with angels that are about to join him. But why else might we be seeing this dream image? So I want to invite people to free associate in the chat, and I'll read a couple of the suggestions. We know a little bit about Jacob. We know what's just happened with his father. We know what's just happened with his brother and his mother, right? We know what's the deception that he's undergone, right? That he's perpetrated, right, with his mother's advice, right, on his father. And we know that he's on his way to a place that he doesn't know, right, and he's going to spend many years there. So what might this ladder mean, right? How might we understand the impact of this ladder? And I want to think sort of less in terms of symbol, right, like a conscious, symbolizing one thing for another, and more in terms of the feeling of it. What does it feel like to think about this ladder with these entities, with some kind of messengers going up and down on it? So people were saying Jacob's growing up. He's moving from a boy to a man, right? So here we might be seeing something about his own journey upward, right? Or his own journey of learning about connection with God. Some people are saying connection, moving into the unknown. Maybe the angels are each having a different job, and there are changes happening. There's ambivalence, perhaps. Peggy says maybe prayers are being heard. Right, so maybe he's feeling that God is going to appear to him the way that God has appeared to his forebears. A ladder could mean opportunity. It could mean that he's going to receive help, right, from the other world. That he's growing, right? He himself is on this journey and is growing. A ladder is precarious, right? It has the potential to, what one could fall off a ladder, right? So there's something precarious about his positions in the world. Um, that he has an established and directed past. Am I moving up or down? Right. One thing that Jung says is that in a dream, the up direction and the down direction are actually the same. Right? Whether you're going up a ladder or down a staircase into the basement, you're going into the archetypal realm. You're going into the transcendent realm. So that the angels are going both up and down, I find that really kind of a cool thing. Some folks are asking what angels look like. I think angels can probably look like anything they want to look like. But sometimes in the tradition, they're described as being fiery and having lots of wings. But that's for another day. A strong reassurance that his covenant with God is going to be strong and his ancestors will be strong with him too. Um, a sign of connection to the land, right? Lots of these pieces. The spine, right? Some people see the ladder as the spine, right, and the feelings moving up and down the spine, so it's like the body. Stretch between family and self, family and authenticity. So all of these, and I'm sorry if I missed your answer, but look in the chat. There are all kinds of amazing answers there. Someone says fear to strength, right? All of these are possible readings of the dream, right? Are possible things we might see in the dream. Right? And if any of us were to sit with Jacob, right, and say, this is what I think about your dream, right, then Jacob might learn from that, right, might be able to further explore, right, his feelings and thoughts about the image in the dream, right? But clearly, right, his feeling is awe because of how he reacts later on. So we're going to look at that in a second. But I want to talk for a moment about the second part of the dream, which is the conversation part. Because the ladder is an up and down movement, but the second part of the dream is a horizontal movement, right? Where God talks about, here, I'll show you, where God talks about how Jacob's descendants are going to stretch out the west, the east, the north, and the south. Right, so we have this line, and then we have this spreading out, right, to the four directions. So this is almost like a dream of the sacred, sort of the sacred directions, like the sacred cosmos. And in fact, there are Jewish sources that say he's dreaming of the temple, like what he's dreaming about in some way is the temple, because it is the place of connection between heaven and earth. And others say he's dreaming about other things. And so he has this dream, right? There's a very powerful dream with this powerful image and this, right, God standing next to him, right? This is an experience, right, we wouldn't normally have, right? But Jacob can have it in his dream, right? It doesn't say what God looks like, right? But God, or sounds like, but God is standing next to him. And Jacob awakens from the dream, and he has a particular verbal reaction, an emotional reaction, and a ritual reaction. Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely, right, surely the divine is present in this place, and I did not know it. Shaken, he said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the abode of God, and this is the gateway to heaven. Early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. And then there's a little more about how the place is named Beth El. He calls it after the house of God. But I want to talk a little bit about Yaakov's reaction here. First, he really understands the dream not just as something that's internal to his psychology, right, but as a visitation. Right? He understands this dream as a message, right, from the divine in a way that he needs to take seriously. So that's an important piece to name here, right? He feels that the dream is specific to the place, that he's laid down in this place, right, and he's had the dream here, and that must be significant. So he interprets where and when he has the dream as important. And so that's another way we might understand how is Jacob interpreting the dream, and how does he understand dreams in general, right? And how might this reflect how our ancestors understood dreams? So he sees this dream as saying that God is in this place. And he says, how awesome is this place, right? This is God's house, and that is the gateway to heaven, right? So he understands the images in the dream as telling him something about the waking world. And this is a classic piece of how Jews have often understood dreaming, right? Is that there is something true about the dream that we carry into the waking world. We'll see that the Talmud makes that a little more complicated, but that there is something true here. And finally, I want to name that he has a ritual reaction. Right? He takes the stone from under his head and he sets it up as a pillar and he anoints it. Right? So he has a reaction to the dream, right? Uh, in which he does something ritual to celebrate and to acknowledge, right, the gift that he's received through the dream. We see this in another place in the Bible where King Solomon also has a significant dream where he speaks to God. And after the dream, he has a feast. He goes to a significant place to have the dream. He goes to a shrine. He has the dream there, and then he has a feast to honor and celebrate the dream. So it might be, right, that this was a practice, right, that if you had a significant dream that felt like an important visitation, right, that you would do something, right, in the physical world to acknowledge that. I want to show one commentary, then maybe we'll say a little bit more about the scene. So this is a Hasidic commentary. It's called the Meh HaShiloach. The rabbi who wrote it is called Mordechai Yosef Leinier of Ishbitz. And I think that this comment shows the connection that our ancestors have often seen between dreams and Torah. Right? Because like Torah, right, dreams have many possible interpretations. And like Torah, right, in this dreaming tradition, dreams are something that you share. Right? The way Joseph shares with his brothers, even though that turns out not to be such a great idea. And this is how the Ishbitzer Rebbe talks about this dream. Does somebody maybe want to read the English? I was told I could ask somebody to read. Somebody could raise your electronic hand if you want to read the English here.
Thank you, Marjorie.
When Yaakov Avinu dreamed his dream en route to Laban, he investigated it and taught all the depth within it to the tribes, and they studied it, each time receiving new Torah insights into its nature. For so many deep Torah insights are contained in this dream.
Thank you so much. So I love this comment because essentially in the imagination of the Ishbitzer, Yaakov founds a dream yeshiva, right? He has all of his children study this dream, right? There isn't a Torah yet, right? Although sometimes they end up studying Torah anyway, but at least in terms of temporality, there isn't a Torah yet. But they have the dream, and so they study the dream, right, as a kind of Torah. And I really find this so beautiful. And I often teach this text when I run dream circles, because one way that we can experience dreams is as directed personally to us. But another way that we can experience dreams is we can learn from anyone's dream, right? Anyone's dream may have insights in it that we can share. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and then I want to share a little more about dream tradition. But I want to see what folks have been saying. Great. Okay. So right, turn it and turn it. Exactly. That there's right. There is this sense that Jacob's dream. Right. Jacob's dream. Like this is his call. Right. This is his direction. Right. Through this dream. And Joseph also receives his call through a dream. right? He has these two dreams, right? One of the sheaf, right, that all the other sheaves bow down to. Right? And what's amazing about that dream, right, is that although the brothers interpret it as a a kind of a vanity dream, right? Our sheaves are bowing down to you because you are vain, right? And you think that you should rule over us, right? That's how they interpret it, as a kind of Freudian dream of wish fulfillment. But the reader knows that the dream is telling us how Yosef is going to save everyone, right? That those grain sheaves, right, are what he's going to use, right, to save his relatives and all of Egypt from starvation. Right? So that dream has a depth that the brothers can't see, right, because they don't have the context. So that dream also becomes right, a powerful message about the rest of Joseph's life. So in the imagination of the Bible, right, dreams can have this impact on us. Now, somebody asked in the chat, right, are all dreams gifts from God? Right, and there are a couple of different ways to look at this. And actually, let me share a little bit from the Talmud about dreams, because I think this will, I think this maybe will help us. Somebody asked, why would Yaakov doubt Yosef's dream? I mean, you can read that different ways. It's possible that he doesn't doubt the dream, but he wants the brothers to think that he's angry because he thinks he can defuse the situation, right? That is one possibility, because it says he kept the matter in mind, right? And the Talmud actually says you should wait to see if your dream is fulfilled, right? It might not be fulfilled right away. You have to wait. Sometimes it becomes clear later on. So I want to give a little bit of Talmudic wisdom around dreaming, just to add some complexity to this picture about how we are reading Jacob's dream and Joseph's dream. And I'll add just on the gender dynamics here. There are only in the Bible dreams. We only have recorded dreams from men, although there is in the book of Numbers some indication that Miriam dreams, because God says, when I talk to other prophets, I talk to them in dreams. So Miriam probably is a dreaming prophet. But I'm going to show you some Kabbalistic material that shows that everybody in the Jewish community dreamed and shared their dreams. And we have some dreams recorded, not only from the male Kabbalists of Sfat, but from the women Kabbalists of Sfat as well. So I'll show a little bit of that. But let me focus for a second on some of the Talmudic teachings around dreaming. By the time we get to the Talmud, dreams are being seen as a little bit more complex than the way that Jacob sees the dream. Right? Jacob sees the dream as, this is completely a message from God from beginning to end. Right? That's the dream that I have received. Right? I've received a direct message through my dream. The Talmud understands dreams to be a little bit more mixed up. That they have aspects that are prophetic, that are connective, right, that help us connect to the divine, and then they have aspects that are more, neurotic, like, or more personal to us. And one of the things that the Talmud says is Shena echad mishishim lemita, chalom echad mishishim lenivua. Sleep is 1/60th of death. Dream is 1/60th of prophecy. So 1/60th in the language of the Talmud is just enough of something to matter. So if you drop something you shouldn't in your soup and it's more than 1/60th, then you have a problem. But if it's less than 1/60th, you can kind of ignore it, right? 1/60th means enough of something to matter. So there's a little bit of death in sleep. Right? There's a little bit of what it might be like to go to the other world. And there's a little bit of prophecy in dreams. So this might be closer to what some of us experience, right? Where we have dreams that have lots of different components, some of which are mysterious and eerie, and some of which might seem more like detritus, right, from our day. And this is how the Talmud expresses it. There's some prophecy in dreams. Dream is 1/60th of prophecy. Another thing the Talmud says about dreaming, and this is related to the comment we just saw on Joseph's dream by the Ishbitzer. Another thing they say in Tractate Brachot has a whole section about dreaming. And they also say this. Maybe somebody else wants to read? Thanks, Natalka. You can, there you go.
Great.
The English is great.
There were 24 dream interpreters in Jerusalem. Once I dreamt a dream and went to all of them, and each gave me different interpretation, and each one came true.
Thank you. So this statement is made by a rabbi who clearly had, dreams on his mind and lots of time on his hands, and went to 24 different dream interpreters. So one thing that we might know about this is that we have professional dream interpreters in the time of the Talmud, right, who are telling us, right, what our dreams mean. So that's neat to know. And this rabbi does an experiment and goes to all of them, right, to see what will happen. And they all have a different interpretation, right? So this is different from what we see in Genesis, where Jacob's dream, Jacob has an interpretation of the dream, one interpretation. But here, right, there could be many interpretations. There could be many different understandings that arise out of the dream. And he says, then they all came true. Right. So for whatever reason, right, because of the great intuition of the interpreters or because of the impact on the dreamer of receiving the interpretation, right, he experiences all of the interpretations as true. This is a lot like when we read Torah, right, and we say like there are many interpretations, right, they can all be true, right, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chaim, right, all of these interpretations are words of the living God, right. So the Talmud sees dreams similarly, right, as being pulled in the direction of an interpretation. And the Talmud, all right, I'll share one more. And then I want to move on to some folk material, but the Talmud also says this. Rav Chisda said, a dream that has not been interpreted is like a letter that has not been read. So what happens if you don't read your mail? If you don't read your mail, you don't know what it says, right? And that could be good because you didn't read a letter that you really didn't want to receive, but it could also be bad because you will have jury duty and you won't know. Susie, did you want to say something about it?
Yes, I was just about to say what you said. You could be missing a very important message that is important for you to receive.
Yes, exactly. Right. And so if you don't pay attention to your dreams, right, you might really miss something. Aaron, I'll take one more comment and then we'll keep going. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yes, so I thought perhaps you're going to get a bill in the mail. I don't know, to pay your hydro, and you don't open it, no hydro, something like that.
Right. So one thing, a way that I would interpret what Aaron has just said is one thing that Jewish dream interpreters have said about dreams is that dreams come to teach us about teshuvah. Like one thing that dreams come to do is to talk to us about how we could be doing better in the world, right? And that, right, and if we don't listen, right, then we won't get those messages, right? So that's really an important piece. Just I'm going to comment on a couple of things in the chat. For purposes of, I think, of this conversation, lucid dreams and other kinds of dreams are the same. All dreams have the potential to have prophetic qualities. And this is something that people tell me about all the time. I'm not just talking about in the Bible. I'm talking about people who tell me that a dead relative came to them to tell them that they have a medical diagnosis and they have to go to a doctor, and the dreams turn out to be true. I have had people tell me about car accidents that they dreamt about, and then they actually had the accident and they knew what to do because of what they had dreamed. I've really heard extraordinary experiences in the contemporary world around dreaming. And just because many of my dreams are about how I lost my luggage, right, I still keep paying attention to them because I know that there will be important details in there. And that feels right, that feels like a an important thing to share, that this isn't just about a kind of an ancient imagination, but in my experience at least, there are there are important carryovers to today. Arnold, and I'm going to come to you in a second, John. Arnold says, only ask those who know and love you for help interpreting your dreams. The Talmud actually says this, that you should only talk about your dreams to people who have your best interests in mind, right? Because if you talk to somebody who has an ulterior motive, right, they're going to interpret your dream, like Joseph's brothers, right, in a way that is, that has an ulterior motive. So I want to say something about mystical dream practice, and a couple of people were asking about the differential in the way that some of us remember dreams. For example, I remember fewer dreams now than I did when I was young. When I was young, I remembered often. Now I remember fewer. They still matter to me a lot, right? But I don't remember as much. Other people, it might go the other way, right? We have different access to dreams, but there are practices you can do to, particularly having a dream chavruta, having somebody to whom you want to tell your dreams, helps you remember. And it also helps to keep a regular dream journal. So those things, are, if you want to read your dream mail, right, those are some important ways that you can do it. Great. There was someone who wanted to say something, but their hand is gone.
Yeah, it seems John lowered his hand. Oh,
Okay.
and now it's back up. Great.
Go ahead, John.
Okay, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I just wondered whether, rather like Jacob's ladder, there's a kind of a two-way process between the dream. It's not like, as it's sometimes imagined, that the dream is something that just predicts the future, but in the interpretation of it, we affect the future, or we affect the efficacy of the dream.
Yeah.
Like we're in dialogue with the dream. And that was the way I understood those passages from the Talmud, that it's not just that by opening the letter, by reading the dream, by having the dream interpreted, you find out what the dream meant, but you make it mean something.
Right. This is actually exactly what the Talmud seems to think, because if you have a disturbing dream, the way that the Talmud wants you to handle it is to convene a court of 3 people who will then sort of say biblical verses over the dream, right? And who will kind of heal the dream, right, by interpreting it in a positive way. So the Talmud definitely has this idea that if you have a dream that's troubling, you can actually impact how the dream will manifest, like how the waking residue of that dream will play out in your life. So there's this sort of push-pull between the power of the dream image as it is. This is something Roger Kamenetz, who's a dream worker, in addition to being an author, talks about a lot, and the power of the interpretation, right, to impact the dream. I'm going to come to comments in a moment. There is one more thing I really want to make sure that I get to share, and we only have 9 more minutes. So I'll come to comments in just a couple of seconds, but I wanted to share something around the Kabbalistic interpretation and understanding of dreams. I'll just share 2 things. So one thing I want to share is that according to the Zohar, right, when you dream, your soul is actually traveling. Like you actually have dream journey experience. That the soul goes out and wanders the ethereal realms of the soul, and then the soul comes back at the end of the night and tells you what you dreamed, which is maybe why you don't always remember, or it doesn't always make sense, because it's not excuse me, it's not just you, it's your soul.
Bless you.
Thank you. And the Zohar goes on in this vein, talking actually about this parsha, and talking about the ways that we learn from holy beings in the dream, and we meet with the other souls in the dream. And one of the other really powerful experiences people often tell me is about meeting people who have died in their dreams and how important that is for them. So that's a really important piece. And the last thing I want to show you is a little bit about the dreamers of Sfat. The mystics of Sfat were dreamers, and dreams, because they were accessible to everybody, unlike Torah study, which was only accessible to some people, there were multiple dreamers in Sfat who were taken very seriously. One of them was called Francesca Sara. When, like Jacob, she had powerful dreams. And one day she dreamed that there would be an earthquake and the community would be destroyed. And so she went to the sages. She said, I had this dream, and the rabbis declared a fast day because they took her dreams seriously. And she was there, she prayed with everybody. And then afterwards she said she had another dream, and the decree was annulled and everybody was fine. But this was another Jewish community, right, 1,000 years later, right, where dreams are still being taken seriously as a vehicle for communication. And if you take my dream course, you'll find out more about them. So let me take a couple of comments and let's see what other folks are saying. Arnold, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. I think Joseph Jacob has a really interesting interpretation of his own dream. He believes that there is a God, but then he goes on to say, if this God does right by me, I'll accept him as my God. That's pretty interesting. I've never heard anybody say that before in the Torah.
Apologies, Rabbi is muted.
Oh,
You should be able to unmute.
Got it.
There
now.
you go.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to say more about it now, but thank you very much. That's true. He does say that, and it is unusual. So he seems to be negotiating some kind of personal relationship. Yeah, Jay, please.
So this is a question, Rabbi, based on your experience in dreams, it seems like different people have more or less ability to remember their dreams. And then you also alluded to the fact that within each individual during different times in their lives, they can remember more or less of their dreams. I was just interested in what you found.
Yeah. It's true, and one of the reasons that is I'm given to understand is that we have a chemical in our brain that dissolves our dream memories, and the reason that it does that is because otherwise we'll think that they're real, and we'll be yelling at people saying you did this thing, and I would be like, no, I didn't, but you dreamed it, and you thought that it was real. So it's important that we not take our dream memories to be memories from the waking world, and so our brains sort of try to remove them. And this is why you have to get the dream right away, right? And sometimes it's very difficult. But I find if I'm in a dark room, I remember better, right? There are ways that you can, but the most important thing is to get it right away. And I don't say I'll write it down in 5 minutes. I have to do something else because you're going to forget it. That's unless it's a very, very potent dream, in which case you won't, because those dreams stay. But many, many dreams we forget.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Hannah, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for this wonderful, wonderful talk. I wanted to ask you, and this is certainly much more prevalent when I was a child, and about these actual physical feeling dreams of flying or falling off a cliff, and they feel so completely real in the body, not just the spirit and mind.
Yeah,
I wondered if you could just comment on that, which would take 5 hours, but thank you.
Sure. I mean, sometimes in dreams we do have this very embodied sense of what's happening, and it's part of why dreams can teach us in the way that they do, because a dream is a three-dimensional space, right? I mean, it may not literally be a three-dimensional space, but we experience it as a three-dimensional space, right? And so it's like it has an impact on the body, right? And the images that come out of us, right, are arising, right, from from our deep from our deep mind, right, and from our unconscious, right, which also has a very embodied quality. So there's something about this, there's something about this three-dimensional space that allows for more learning from us, for more learning for us. And I think that those, those visceral dreams are the ones often that we remember. I want to say a couple of people have mentioned some other ways of having visions in the chat. According to one of my teachers and colleagues, Dr. Catherine Shainberg, one of the things that she says is that we are always dreaming, right? We have this particular special kind of dream when we sleep, right? But we are always generating images inside us, right? And if you're familiar with meditation or prayer, right, then you probably know what it's like to have images, thoughts, and feelings, right, arise inside you, right, in this sort of dreamlike way. And those dreams also, right, have power for us. So there's actually a lot of ways to access the dream state. I particularly like sleeping dreams because they have this quality of, I know that I'm not influencing them with my ego. I know that like the way that when I meditate, I might pick an image that I like best, right? But my dream is going to go a little bit deeper than that, and that always has felt important to me. But there are really lots of ways that we dream, and they're important. I personally would love to see more of us following, and I see from the chat how many of you are having powerful dream experiences. And I personally would love to see us following in the footsteps of this parsha, right? Thinking about our dreams as healing for us, as wisdom for us, as a insight, and talking about them. Because often we relegate dreams to the office of the psychologist. Right? Dreams tell us something about our about our personal psychology, and we probably wouldn't want to even share them with somebody else, right? But for many, many cultures around the world, dream wisdom is an important source of communal revelation. I've talked to shamans who say they grew up in families where even children discussed dreams when they woke up in the morning. Everybody had coffee and discussed dreams. It's an ancient form of receiving wisdom, and we have it from our tradition even as early as this parsha. And we continue to have it, and I think it's a big blessing. And for those of us who have more trouble remembering our dreams, we can always benefit from the dreams of others and from the dreams of our ancestors. So I want to thank my Jewish Learning and Mara and all of you. It's been really wonderful to get to study Torah with you today.